Why aren't there tripeds?
You may have seen a three-legged dog or deer due to an injury, but a three-legged species does not exist today. And an animal with three legs may never have existed, as it is not found in the fossil record.
There had been nothing about three-legged animals all the way back.
So once we start paying attention to what we don't see,
why aren't there certain phenotypes? Why don't certain adaptations seem to appear throughout the fossil record? Then we have some questions about why not.
Thompson started asking this question as he was getting his PhD, and a professor asked for an assignment to make up a forbidden phenotype, and then he had an idea.
As I was biking home one day, I remembered reading H.G. Wells's War of the Worlds, in which the Martians that come to invade Earth are three-legged creatures, and they build their machines to have three legs. They call them tripods in the book. And I started thinking about that, like, there's no three-legged animals anywhere on Earth.
While human imagination is clearly able to come up with the idea, there is a lack of any such animal in nature. To dive into this, it's important to focus on the terminology behind all of this.
Humans employ bipedalism, which is the name of the locomotion. So anything that walks on two legs is using bipedalism.
So we can call an animal with two legs a biped, an animal with three legs a triped, and one with four legs a quadruped. And from this we can break this down into multiple categories: how it walks, number of legs used to move, and number of actual legs.
However, humans are not bipeds. That's where the confusion starts. We are quadrupeds. We are four-limbed animals. We just only use two.
One of the biggest reasons we don't see tripeds is simple. It's hard to walk.
Physical problems, like with gravity, how do you take your first step, just balance and motion that is problematic with a three-legged form of locomotion that you don't get with other forms.
Overall, the deep issue for not seeing any tripeds walking around is genetics.
Once a feature or a body part or something becomes codified in the genetic code of that animal, it's very hard to uncodify or to remove that constraint.
Now, you can do a lot of things with these genetics, like adapt its arms or legs or feet, but the fact that it is a limb, that it is constant across animals because it is genetically ingrained in their DNA. When we look at animals, we see symmetry. We can differentiate between a left and a right side. This symmetry is part of an animal's genetics and is established before the genetics that make up limbs.
So that by the time we're getting mutations and evolving limbs in organisms, we have a bilateral symmetry already implanted. And so it's always going to be paired. There's always going to be two of everything.
There's nothing that has three limbs. It's always even numbers.
No matter how many you can have a millipede that has hundreds of limbs, but they're always paired.
But tripedalism, which is using three limbs to move around, is actually quite common.
One was the parrot, which has the wings that are folded up. It doesn't use the wings for walking around or climbing, but they use their feet and their beak as kind of a third appendage. So the beak will grab onto things, they'll reposition the two legs, grab on again, and they'll move.
A recent paper published in the Royal Society cites the specific movements in parrots as tripedalism, and found they will only use their beak on surfaces that are steep enough that they need to use their beak as a third limb to move around.
You may have 5 legs, you may have 4 legs or 8 legs, but you may only use 2 or 3. And if you're using 3, you've got the tripedalism, and that seems to be a common way to do things.
Thompson says everything has a history, whether it's politics, religion, philosophy, or evolution, that in some way affects what you currently see.
If you can understand the history, it doesn't excuse or anything, but it explains. I think the explanatory power of understanding history for our current understanding is needed, and without that, we're going to miss all sorts of things and frankly just not understand things correctly. If we want to solve a problem, we have to understand how that problem got there.
I'm Tanner Saul.